Listen, you guys have to give me some grace this morning. I do have a great show. I have been preparing for 3 hours. It's cray. The lawn guy shows up. The grandmother shows up. The dog's got to go to the bathroom. But guess what? I am not going to be deterred this morning. Let's get ready. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm like frustrated. I mean, like you stew all night. Yeah, you roll around in bed and you think about sleeping. You think about your show the next morning. Think about what you're going to say. You think about how impactful it's going to be. You think about all the things that go on. And I promise you, man, Satan just does not want things to happen on this show today. But we're here, we're ready, we're prepared, and never mind, right? That the lawn company does it every Thursday like clockwork, but today he does it on Monday at 9 o'clock, and he's outside of my studio with the blower going on, and Grandma's here because the house is repaired, and she's got the vegetable turbo grinder going, just grinding up her pomegranate or whatever she's got going on, and Tracy comes flying down and the dog's got to go poo. Listen, I'm telling you what, my life is for real. Your life is for real. Like, we're all in this thing together, man. And I think this wired differently mindset, mission, movement, ministry. I'm so excited about it. But last night, everybody, there's been a lot of calls for this just to be a national holiday. The Super Bowl is such a big deal. And like, nobody goes to work the next day, and like, just make it a holiday, get it over with, right? I don't know. I think I'm in that camp. Make it a holiday. It's Americana at its best. It's like really one of our own. Baseball and football really is kind of moving into America's pastime. But long story short is, I really want to talk to you about what's happened in the Super Bowl. You all think you're watching the Super Bowl, right? And here's a good conspiracy. Like, I know a lot of us are conspiracy theory people. And I want to tell you a good conspiracy because I'm in the bowels of this conspiracy, right? And here's a conspiracy. The conspiracy is that Christ is infiltrating the NFL. It's a conspiracy. Or is it? So today I'm going to talk about, I've got 3 primary ways of distinguishing ourselves as Christians. 3, like, this whole message really morphed in even almost the last half hour when I was presenting it. When I started to do some more back study on Romans and all that's going on with Paul and this and that, because our scripture today is Romans 12:10. And Romans 12:10 reads, be devoted to each other with brotherly affection, give preference to one another in honor. And I'm like thinking this, professional football, I'm thinking the NFL, I'm thinking, what's the conspiracy theory? So let me just kind of give you the conspiracy theory that I'm going to share with you, because I was in the Super Bowl throws last year. I should have went this year. I've got major regret. I was just crying in my soup over the Detroit Lions, and so I didn't go. And I have friends there. I have invitations to be involved. And Darren, I sorry I didn't go. I should have went. But here's what's happening at the Super Bowl. The conspiracy theory is not a conspiracy. It's really happening. And there is a website we're going to go to called He Gets Us. He Gets Us. Go to hegetsus.com. And it's this idea that a lot of very wealthy people pulled their resources together to give Jesus Christ his own marketing team. And what he has done through this piece is witnessed and shared the gospel through the Super Bowl. Now, we saw a commercial in the Super Bowl. If you all watched the Super Bowl last night, you saw this commercial. And I am gonna use my ninja skills, because in the throes of everything, I did not do a great job of I got everything ready to go, but I didn't have this site pulled up. But I've got it right here, so don't worry. We're going to go over here, and I'm going to take this first lead-up section. I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach on the 3 primary ways of distinguishing ourselves as Christians. But I want to roll into this conspiracy theory that literally Christians are taking over the Super Bowl, right? Or taking over sports, right? Like, we know that in politics, you cannot mix politics with religious. You can't mix sports with religious. Well, all of a sudden, ESPN over the last 10, 12 years starts to get woke on us, and they're mixing all kinds of things with sports, right? They're infiltrating the way of our life by injecting a lot of liberal ideas and pushing those things down the network in people's thought processes, but you never generally see it coming the other way, right? And so what I wanted to let you know that is, yes, as Christians, we are called to love everybody. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to literally talk about how we are to distinguish ourselves in front of all of the world by literally being inclusionist, right? Jesus Christ was the first diversity project manager the world had ever seen. So I'm just going to set you up with what happened last night at the Super Bowl. This is the second year that He Gets Us has featured probably the greatest marketing piece I've seen from Christianity in my lifetime. Let's watch this.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. 2 worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We can live for 1,000 years.
All right, so we're going to watch that video again in a little bit, but I just want to set up today's teaching. I want you to see that video. I want to understand, like, hey, and I remember that video from the Super Bowl. Can you resonate with it? Now, your first impressions of this video are like, wow, great graphics. What's going on? But what's really happening is that He gets us. this movement of He Gets Us, this friend of Wired Differently, are on the same path. We're like saying Christ gets us. He sees all of us. He sees not only just the Christians, but He sees the Jews. He sees the Gentiles. He sees the poor. He sees the rich. He sees the transgender. He sees the gay. He sees the homeless. He sees all of it, right? And this is not new for Jesus Christ to come out and say, hey, man, I've been doing this for thousands of years, right? Thousands. This is not new. But what is new, or what is new to us, is that the NFL is allowing, right? Watch this conspiracy theory, one that actually fills our vases, fills our chest, fills our lives, right? That shows the side of Christianity that we want people to see of Jesus Christ to the world. The biggest event in the world featured that commercial for interpretation of the world to understand what Jesus Christ is all about. So how do we show the world as Wired Differently people? How do we show the world as Wired Differently mindset, mission, movement, and ministry people? How do we show the world of how to distinguish ourselves as being Christ followers, as being these Bible followers? How do we show the world that's what we are about? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today.
Preview.
Todd is not only a remarkable, successful 30-year titan in business with having multiple businesses that generate multiplied millions of dollars.
And if that plan happens to be to build $1 million company, which I can help you do.
But he's humble. He's a man of God. He's a family man.
The world's news organizations are built on everything but positivity.
He is an influential entrepreneur and business speaker for over 30 years.
I've got to forecast. I've got to pronounce. I've got to project. I've got to share with you my ideas, my vision, my goals for not only myself, but for you.
That's why he's came up with his incredible concept of taking and creating a platform for people that are wired differently.
And you got to understand that your habits of your person and your habits of your business and your habits of your spirituality have to lead to the North Star of who you are. We need to figure out who we want to be in life.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday morning. It's the day after Super Bowl. I don't know if your team won the Super Bowl. I can tell you this much. My team did not win the Super Bowl. We all know, and I'm done with it. I didn't even really want to watch the Super Bowl. The truth be told is that I had actually bought tickets to Treasure Island. I had bought tickets on Delta's Airlines, and I had booked all of this before the NFC Championships, where the Detroit Lions were playing the San Francisco 49ers at San Francisco. I took my wife there. We had a great time. Wouldn't change it for the world. We had the best time of our life until the second half of the game, where the Detroit Lions lost to the San Francisco 49ers. And yes, I was rooting for the San Francisco 49ers last night. But listen, all that to be said, like, I've done a lot of messages with you guys. And one of the things I want to talk to you about is a message I did a while back about being raging fans, like being in the stadium. I probably, if I dig through my pictures, I can show the stadium of raging fans. Remember when we talked about all the raging fans and what they represented? And let's see if we have any of these pictures left. Gosh, I deleted a lot of them, but man, I just had images of crowds of people wearing jerseys, right, for their team. And I was one of those lunatics spending all my money driving and flying all over the country under the guise of it's family time. But it's really to root on the Detroit Lions. But it hit me at that San Francisco 49er debacle that why can't we be cheering for our God that loud? And so, that really plays into this mindset, mission, ministry, and movement that I started with Wired to Differently 2018 and started writing some more books and started moving some things around. And I just really want to be that raging fan. Why does my jersey have to say Detroit Lions? Why can't it say Christ follower, or kingdom builder, or inspirational follower, or why can't, why? And so that's how we just kind of really stepped up our brand of Wired Differently. We're raging fans of Jesus Christ. We're raging fans of God. And that's why if you get time, go to wiredtodifferently.com, and you'll see about 60 shirts and styles of Christ following, this fandom, this misfitness that we are, and the shirts are building. We'll have some 100 styles on there before long. But this isn't really a commercial as much as to tell you why we're talking about what we're talking about today. And I guarantee you we're going to run out of time. And I just want you to understand that we'll definitely pick this up tomorrow. But the teaching today is, how do we distinguish ourselves from the world as Christ followers? How does God called us? How are we to be those people? And the Super Bowl really played it out in force for me last night. I had a message, at least an opening of a message prepared, and I'll use it some other time, about my wife and watching HDTV and having some fun of that nature. But as the Super Bowl unfolded and I was in and out of the game, it became apparently clear that I couldn't get this video off my mind. And the thing is it tied into the scripture for today, which was Romans 12:10. And so I'm going to tie in how we are distinguishing ourselves as Christians, but I really want to understand that Romans 12:10, write this down if you get a chance. I know I've got a lot of you on this morning. Thank you so much. Romans 12:10, be devoted to each other with brotherly affection. Give preference to one another in honor. Now, this is the Apostle Paul talking to the Roman church. He's writing a letter to the church in Rome. So Romans. So put this together for a moment, because here's what's happening. Paul is on his way to possibly Spain, and on the way there, he knows he's going to stop off in Rome. And in Rome is where literally some Jewish people who were saved at the Pentecost created a Christian church in Rome, right? Like in the epicenter of the world. Can you imagine those unnamed people that literally began a church where they would have been killed generally, but they were Jews who not only Jewish people who were converts, then in Rome, right, that were idol worshipers, were not about Christ, not about God, not about those. They were a pagan religion, right? And so here's what's happening. Some really brave people that will never know, just blows my mind, started a church in Rome. And so Paul's in awe of these people. He's got to get there. And so he's writing them a letter. I'm coming to see you in Rome. You Romans are amazing Christ followers. Not only were you Jewish, but now you're Roman Jews who had converted to Christianity. That's, honestly, if there's one thing you take today, just think about the mind-blowing tenacity, faith, and courage it took to do that. As I'm just teaching you right now, I'm just almost bewildered with the thought that happened. But Paul's on his way over there, and you have to understand that Paul's kinship to these people in Rome is because he was a Roman soldier. He was a pagan worshiper, many gods, right? Idol worshiper of many different gods. He wasn't Jewish, but he was a Roman. But he knew that some of these Romans were obviously wanting to press Christianity. Paul himself had killed many Christians for the Roman way of life. So now he finds himself as a God follower, Christ follower, writing a letter to his very home front of people, not only his people, but Jewish people that converted in his people's town, right? So the irony of all this is just spectacular. So he writes them a letter, encouraging them to stay the course, encouraging of their misfitness. Like you're going to see the word misfit a lot in the Wired Differently mindset, movement, mission, ministry, right? Because misfits are who we are. Paul was a misfit, right? Darren Gray is a misfit, right? those Roman Jewish people that converted to Christianity were misfits because they're not of that world anymore. They're not of the Roman world anymore. They're not of the Jewish world anymore. They're not of the Gentile world anymore. They are literally of God. They are Christ followers. They are kingdom inspired evangelists, right? And so they're misfits. They don't fit. And so they collect together, just like Detroit Lions. But here's the thing. Paul's on his way over there. He writes this letter to them, and here's what he's saying to them in Romans 12:10. He says, listen, actually, I want to read in the beginning. I want to start with the verse that was given to me was Romans 10 or chapter 12, verse 10. But I wanted to go back to verse 9 to set up actually verse 10. It says in Romans, he's saying to the Romans, I'm on my way over here, and I want you to understand, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good, right? So he's setting that up. Now, by the way, he says, I want you to be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourself. And so what does this have to do with the video we're going to watch? What does it have to do with Romans? This is all going to come together. And I want you to understand that Paul, because I want you to understand how important it is to love everybody. But the verse we have today is Paul's journey through Rome to Spain to set up Romans, to set up the believers. And I don't want you to get confused with the two types of setups of honoring other people. This setup in Romans 12:10, be devoted to each other with brotherly affection, give preference to one another in honor. He's speaking to the brotherly love of the Roman Jewish Christians. This family core is important. This wired differently family core is important. They need to understand, step one is that they are special in their walk. They are special within their brotherly love. They are special within their tribe, their family, their core. The Apostle Paul's job is to create and unite that feeling in his own awness, in the awness that I just explained to you on what they went through to create that following, to create that first church in Rome, to do those things. And that's how we should feel about my brother Greg. We should feel about my brother Chad, my brother Chris, my biological brother Shane. I mean, my brother Heather, my brother, my wife Tracy, my brother Abby, my brother, my sister. This is this cohesiveness that Paul is triangulating within the tribe. Because once he's in the tribe, right? And they are distinguishing themselves as who they are and what they are, their identities. Remember, the North Star of your identities is the North Star of your habits is your identity. Paul is creating habits. He's creating a following. He's creating an infrastructure. He's creating a support in Rome. He's going to go speak on it. He's going to praise them for being brave and courageous and the misfits that they are. Right? That's how we distinguish ourselves as Christians within the Christian yoke. Now, here's where some things get a little wonky in the Christian faith. We forget that there's even a greater calling to distinguish ourselves from the world than just creating this tribe of ourselves. Don't get me wrong. I've done my study on this very, very clearly. In Romans, Paul is talking here to followers, brotherly followers in the faith. Be devoted to each other with brotherly affection. Give preference to one another in honor. We know our blood family. We know our corporate family. We know that we have to be yoked in with that. And we know that we have to have favor for them. We know that we have to have a place for them. You know, we know that these things that have to work the right way in preference and honor for the people that we love and are in our world that we're pouring into, our children, our wives, our spouses, our husbands, our CEOs, our presidents, our workers, our donuts, all the things that go on. I mean, that is our tribe. But at the end of the day, this Christian tribe that Paul's talking about in Romans I was perplexed as I started to study for this, because I really want to land on the washing of feet. But God threw this verse at me and he said, listen, Todd, you have to distinguish the two for the followers. And so I want to do that with you today. So I want you to carve out Romans 12:10. I want you to understand that I need you to be devoted to each other with brotherly affection, give preference to one another in honor, right? This is just God's framing around the way we're supposed to live. And you know this. You just need to be reminded. So I'm going to lay out the three ways to be distinguished, right? I want to be able to lay out the three primary ways of distinguishing ourselves as Christians. And what I'm doing is making an argument of the two ways to serve. And in Romans 12:10, the Apostle Paul tells us to be devoted to each other, brotherly affection, like in family, protect each other, feed each other, support each other. This is not in a sexual way. This is not in a loving beautification of someone's this is a brotherly love. This is an agape love. This is a love of caring, right? Paul says you got to have that. Enter now the other way as well, right? The other way we're to love. The other way we can distinguish ourselves. It's not that we have a full stop at Romans 12:10. It's not. It's that we have a full stop here once we understand Christ's primary reason for coming. The chief diversity officer, the first world's chief diversity officer, was Jesus Christ.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We can live for 1,000 years.
Amazing video. And so I thought for today, I would really stoke the fire here a little bit. So we know Paul writes in Romans to gather the brotherly love within our tribe, to serve each other within our tribe brotherly, to show our devotion and preference to ourselves within this brotherly tribe. There's no question that that is what Paul's talking about. But there's a greater calling for us as misfits, us as wired differently people, us as Christians, than to even serve our own tribe. No question that Paul is right. No question that we're to show and represent ourselves. And this is one way that we can distinguish ourselves from the world. But the bigger way we can even distinguish ourselves from the world, our family, to evangelize, to go outside of the Roman church that Paul was talking to, and to really show attention, affection, and brotherly love to those that are not within our tribe. And so I thought that I might highlight in the last few minutes what was being discussed in this entire video that I've showed twice now. I mean, if you can see the first image, it's literally a young man washing his grandfather, I believe washing his grandfather's feet. And the family's looking on like, wow. Tomorrow we'll talk more about that. The next image was a police officer washing some street possible gang member or some street person's feet. And when I look at this image, I look at all the things around the police officer, and I see his gun. I see the waist around him. And the next image is looks like maybe a cheerleader or possibly a popular person washing someone else's feet that's not in the clique. Maybe, I don't know. It's the gymnasium. We'll talk about that tomorrow, right? The next image looks like a daughter or a person helping a mother that's an alcoholic and strung out and needs help. This one clearly moved me. It appears that it's an abortion clinic, and maybe this young lady had just decided to have an abortion, and instead of throwing rocks or stones and chanting baby killer, this beautiful person washes her feet. This video, it's clearly the border, I believe. I mean, there's oil being pumped, maybe Texas, a car that's doors still open out there. He was in a hurry to help somebody. Maybe it was a protester. Maybe it's the oil well owner. It's the oil well person pouring water out of his helmet. There's what he's doing to wash the feet of a protester. This is seemingly a mother. I think it's interesting that most of the images are female motherly types. Maybe a homeless person coming across, being bused in New York. This person is shut him up. People arguing. An image of a black woman helping maybe a Spanish American woman. Silence hate. Let him speak. Just interesting. This one here, I'm guessing, is a Muslim, possibly. And a Christian woman washing a Muslim foot. I mean, and last but not least, Jesus didn't teach hate, right? Like, so every one of these images are the converse of hate. And we know from the teaching tomorrow, we're going to talk about washing the feet and why this makes so much sense. Right? Jesus didn't hate. He washed feet. All right, so what an amazing show we had this morning. And I want to just say that I don't want to go long today. I want to set you up for tomorrow. I want you to understand tomorrow is going to be a great show. We're going to show the video again. We're going to break down these images. We're going to talk about them. What does that mean to you? Where does any of those images fit in your life? We're going to have a great week in regarding to sin and washing feet and forgiveness and understanding why Apostle Paul calls us to collect together as wired differently people in the gospel, the mindset, the mission, the movement, and the ministry, right? And how can we do that in our own fashion? How can we show the world? I think it's important that we distinguish ourselves from this world as the misfits that we are. And we need to do it first and foremost through our actions. But I also think we should wear it on our sleeves. So tomorrow we're going to dig into Romans 12:10 again. We're going to talk, I'm going to read in John 4, 1 through 29. So if you want to read through John 4, 1 through 29, that's your homework for today, because we're going to talk about it. It's a great story about Jesus washing feet and what he did. And we're also going to talk about in Luke how a sinful woman once washed Jesus's feet with tears. So we have one story where Jesus gets his feet washed, and then we have another story where Jesus washes his feet. But all this is for us to understand the triangulation of our identity, right? Of who we are, right? And how are our habits pointing to our identity in our Christian walk, our faith, our businesses, and our personal life. And that's what this show is about. What a great show. And we started off a little rough, but man, we kicked it in. We kicked it in, and nothing's stopping this show. All right. So tomorrow, let's have a great day. And I promise the yard's already been mowed. I will be on time, and we will be loud and proud, man. Come on now. We're wired differently. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock.